Altiplano Prison. The security failure no one was prepared for. Subscribe, like, and comment if you're ready to step into a story so dark and dangerous it was never supposed to escape these walls. The alarms at Altiplano Prison didn't scream. They stuttered, one light blinking red, then dying. Inside Mexico's most fortified prison, the kind designed to swallow men whole and never let secrets out, silence spread faster than panic. At 2:47 a.m., a guard stared at a monitor that should have shown a concrete cell, a steel bed, and a man who terrified governments. Instead, the screen showed nothing. Just an empty room and a hole where the floor used to be. Altiplano wasn't supposed to fail. Buried deep outside Mexico City, wrapped in motion sensors, pressure plates, biometric locks, and armed patrols, it was marketed as escape-proof. Every inmate was watched from above and below. Every step echoed on reinforced concrete. Yet that night, something impossible had already happened. By the time the lockdown was triggered, it was too late. Hours earlier, rain had been pounding the access roads, washing away tire tracks and muting distant sounds. A maintenance crew logged routine activity near the perimeter. Nothing unusual, nothing flagged. Inside the prison, guards rotated shifts with mechanical precision. No one noticed the faint vibration beneath cell 20. No one questioned the faint hum that blended with the prison's constant drone of electricity and surveillance. The missing inmate was officially labeled High-Value Detainee 01. To the media, he was a kingpin. To rivals, a ghost who never stayed dead. To investigators, he was leverage in a war that had already claimed too many lives. His capture had been a political victory. His confinement at Altiplano was meant to end a chapter of bloodshed. Instead, it opened a darker one. Lead investigator Sofia Morales arrived before sunrise. She had spent years chasing corruption cases that never ended cleanly, but the sight of Altiplano's inner corridor unsettled even her. Guards stood frozen, weapons lowered, eyes locked on the open cell. The floor had been cut with surgical precision. Beneath it, a ladder descended into darkness. This wasn't chaos. This was planning. Morales walked the cell slowly. The bed was neatly made.
The sink was dry.
No struggle. No panic. Whoever left did so calmly, methodically, as if following a schedule. A fingerprint dusting team found nothing usable. The cameras covering the corridor had looped for exactly 23 minutes, long enough for one man to vanish underground. Inside job, someone whispered. No one argued. As the investigation widened, small details began to itch at Morales' mind. A guard who had requested a last-minute shift change. A contractor paid in cash for drainage work weeks earlier. Blueprints that didn't match the original prison design. Each clue suggested the same thing. Altiplano hadn't been breached. It had been invited. Outside the prison, the political temperature spiked. Officials downplayed the incident, calling it a temporary containment issue. The public wasn't convinced. Social media exploded with rumors of bribes, threats, and secret deals. Was this incompetence, or something far worse? Morales followed the tunnel first. It stretched over a mile, reinforced with wooden beams, wired with lights, ventilated like a professional operation. At the end, it opened onto a half-finished structure disguised as a construction site. Fresh tire tracks led away into the countryside, erased moments later by the rain. No bodies. No witnesses. Just absence. Back inside Altiplano, Morales requested access to internal communications. One message, sent hours before the escape, stood out. It wasn't long. It wasn't coded. It was almost casual. Package will be delivered tonight. Confirm cooperation. The sender was a senior official assigned to prison oversight. And when Morales realized who had authorized that official's clearance, who had signed the paper that made this escape possible, everything she thought she knew about the case collapsed. Because the failure at Altiplano wasn't just a breach of concrete and steel. It was a betrayal buried deep within the system itself. By midday, the story had outgrown the prison walls. Military convoys sealed highways. Federal agents raided offices that had been considered untouchable for years. Files vanished from servers before warrants were signed. Every move investigator Sofia Morales made felt delayed by minutes she no longer had. Somewhere beyond the rain-soaked hills, a man who should have been buried under concrete and cameras was breathing free air again. Morales started with the oversight official whose message had triggered the escape. His office was immaculate, too immaculate. The desk was cleared, drawers empty, computer wiped down to factory settings. Even the trash can was new. A secretary swore he had taken a sudden medical leave that morning. Hospital records showed no admission. His phone last pinged near the coast, then went dark. The first disappearance. As Morales dug deeper, the pattern sharpened. The construction company tied to the tunnel wasn't real. It existed on paper, backed by shell accounts that funneled money through 3 countries before landing in cash withdrawals. The blueprints that altered Altiplano's foundation had been approved 6 months earlier, quietly inserted into a stack of routine maintenance requests. The signature authorizing them belonged to someone Morales recognized immediately. Her former mentor. He had taught her how to read budgets like crime scenes, how to spot corruption hidden in plain sight. He had once sworn Altiplano was the last line between order and collapse. Now his name sat at the center of the paper trail, undeniable and damning. Morales requested to question him that afternoon. He never arrived. His car was found abandoned near an overpass, engine cold, door open. No blood. No signs of struggle. Just his badge left carefully on the passenger seat, as if placed there on purpose. Investigators argued whether he had fled or been taken. Morales knew better. This wasn't panic. This was a message. The escape wasn't finished. As night fell, intelligence reports began to contradict each other. One agency claimed the fugitive was heading north. Another insisted he never left the city. A third suggested he had been killed during the escape, and the tunnel was a decoy. Each theory collapsed under scrutiny. Someone was feeding lies into the system, clogging it with noise. Then the first body was found. A low-level prison engineer, missing since the night of the escape, was discovered in a drainage canal miles from Altiplano. Officially, the cause of death was ruled accidental. Morales stood at the scene and felt the weight of the lie. The man's tools were missing. His phone was gone, and his work boots were spotless, as if he had never touched dirt. He knew too much, and someone made sure he would never talk. Pressure mounted from above. Morales was told to narrow her focus, to stop chasing theoretical conspiracies. Funding for her task force was suddenly cut in half. Surveillance requests were denied without explanation. Even her secure emails began returning with delivery errors. The investigation wasn't just obstructed, it was being strangled. Late one night, Morales received a call from an unlisted number. The voice on the other end was calm, almost polite. "You're asking the wrong questions," the man said. Altiplano didn't fail. It worked exactly as designed. The line went dead. Hours later, a confidential witness vanished from protective custody. Security footage showed guards stepping aside as a van exited the facility. The license plate belonged to a government fleet vehicle. No authorization existed for the transfer. Morales finally understood the scale of what she was facing. This wasn't corruption leaking through cracks. This was a parallel command structure operating within the state, capable of moving people, money, and truth without resistance. She returned to Altiplano just before dawn. In the now empty cell, forensic teams had removed the bed, the sink, the floor panel. The room felt hollow, stripped of evidence and certainty. As Morales examined the wall one last time, her flashlight caught something overlooked before, a faint marking scratched into the concrete.
A date.
Tomorrow's date. And beneath it, a single word. Delivered. Whatever had escaped Altiplano wasn't running anymore. It was moving toward its final destination. The date on the wall gave Morales less than 24 hours. She didn't report it. By now, she trusted no official channel. Too many eyes. Too many hands ready to erase whatever threatened them. Instead, she followed the only trail that hadn't lied to her yet, the money. Shell accounts, construction payments, logistics transfers. They all converged on one place, a decommissioned cargo terminal near the coast, officially abandoned after a safety review years earlier. The kind of place no one checked anymore. Morales drove through the night, headlights cutting through fog rolling in from the sea. The terminal loomed like a concrete skeleton, rusted cranes frozen midair, warehouses sealed but not forgotten. Thermal scans from a portable drone showed movement inside one structure.
Too organized to be squatters.
Too quiet to be coincidence.
She called it in any way.
No response. Inside the warehouse, floodlights snapped on, bleaching the shadows. Armed men moved with discipline, not panic. This wasn't a gang. It was a unit. At the center of the space sat a reinforced transport container, doors sealed, guards posted like sentinels. Delivered, Morales whispered. She stepped forward, weapon raised, heart hammering. Before she could speak, a familiar voice echoed through the cavernous space. You were always stubborn, Sophia. Her mentor emerged from behind the container, thinner, tired, but very much alive. No restraints. No fear. He looked like a man who had already accepted the end of something long ago.
This isn't what you think, he said.
It never is, Morales replied. Open it. He hesitated, then nodded. The container doors swung wide. It was empty. The realization hit her all at once. Altiplano hadn't been about freeing one man. It had been about proving something. Testing the system. Exposing who would comply, who would look away, who would sign their name without asking questions. The fugitive had never been the endgame.
He was the key.
A gunshot cracked through the air. Chaos erupted. Morales took cover as the warehouse exploded into motion. In the confusion, her mentor fell, wounded, bleeding out on the concrete. She dragged him behind a forklift as sirens wailed in the distance. Real ones this time. They're coming, he gasped. But not for him. For who? Morales demanded. For everyone who thinks this stops with one prison. He pressed a data drive into her hand, fingers slick with blood. Every signature. Every payment. Every deal. Altiplano was the rehearsal. Then his eyes went still. By the time federal forces stormed the warehouse, the armed men were gone. No bodies. No weapons. No container. Official reports would later describe the scene as a failed smuggling operation, neutralized before completion. Morales knew better. The truth was already being rewritten. The data drive changed everything, and nothing. Indictments followed. Hearings were held. A handful of officials were arrested, faces paraded across screens as proof the system worked. The deeper names never surfaced. The networks remained intact, just quieter now. More careful. Altiplano reopened months later with upgraded security, thicker walls, more cameras. Politicians called it safer than ever. Morales resigned. She couldn't forget one detail buried in the files. The fugitive's biometric data had pinged exactly once after the escape, not at the coast, not at the border, but inside a government complex thousands of miles away. The signal was logged, flagged, and then manually deleted by someone with the highest clearance level. The man everyone thought had vanished hadn't disappeared. He had been transferred. 3 months later, a sealed case file crossed Morales's desk anonymously. Inside was a single photograph, a new detention facility under construction, deeper than Altiplano, more isolated, more secret. On the back, 3 words were written in black ink. Phase 2 begins. They said the failure at Altiplano was corrected. They were wrong. It was perfected. And if this story left you uneasy, you should be, because the next one goes even deeper. Hit subscribe and don't look away.